welcome to our journalism breakout session. I'm Sharon Blagrove, and today we are going to explore the ever-changing world of journalism and why it remains relevant as ever in our society. Now, what's the purpose? Journalism plays a crucial role in informing the public, shaping public's opinion, and of course, the overall dissemination of information in holding those in power accountable. Now, despite the rise of digital media, journalism remains a cornerstone of the democracy, and it is a vital tool for understanding the world around us. So I'll be guiding you through today's session with my guest, Gabrielle Nelloms, who brings her extensive experience as a media practitioner in the broadcast sector. Now, let's dive into our first interaction in this session. I now hand over to Gabrielle.
Hi guys, my name is Gabrielle Nelloms. Quick overview because it was pretty much repeated in the symposium. But yes, I'm a associate producer for CNN. I'm currently at work right now. I have been there for 2.5, going on 3 years, coming in August. The biggest thing that I like to tell people that I do is a lot of editing. We make the shows look pretty. So if you ever turn to CNN and you see an anchor speaking and then you see pictures and videos popping up of that person, that's kind of what I do. It's very editing based. We also do a lot of research too. So if we see, can y'all still hear me? I'm sorry, this room can be a little spotty with the connection. But yes, that's pretty much what I do. Like I said, it's very editing based. We do research if we find like some fresher video elements that we may need for the show. You said audio is a bit choppy. Okay. Sorry guys. Hopefully this is better. Just tell me in the chat if it's not, and if it's not, then I'll move to a different room. But yes, that's kind of a brief overview of what my job entails. So as of now, we have a show at 1:00. So we're in like the final crunching stages of video elements, and we go to the control room and we help monitor the show. We keep the show on time. We call video elements that we think is supplemental to the story. That's kind of a brief overview of the position. Other things, like I said, I did a little bit of freelance anchor producer, which is basically working with that anchor hand in hand. So any research that she needs on the guest or the topic or the story itself, that's what I'm in charge of doing as well. That's pretty much a big overview. I'd rather open more for like questions that you guys may have as you guys pursue this journalism journey. So I'm open to any questions. And again, tell me if my audio is bad and I'll move rooms.
Okay, so you're still a little bit choppy, but I'm able to hear you. Not sure if anyone else is having that same issue. Okay, so while Gabrielle is moving, in the interim, I will be putting a little icebreaker in the chat. Now, what you're going to do is to create a compelling headline for any of the following news topics. And I will be pasting it in the chat as I speak, but I'll let you know what it is. So it is climate change summit, local election results, new technological breakthrough, community service initiative, and lastly, we have a celebrity scandal. Now, what you'll do, as I said, is to create a compelling headline. You have the duration of the session to do so. I'll keep you posted by chat as well. Okay, you can go ahead, Gabrielle.
Is this better, guys? Is it still choppy?
No, it's good. Perfect.
With all the satellites, it's a lot of connection issues. But yes, again, I want to make this more of a Q&A forum. If anybody has any questions, because I can talk about myself all day and I don't want to do so. I would much rather open the floor for anybody that are interested in producing or interested in the news business. Any advice that you guys need, please feel free to ask. No question is considered a dumb question to me. I feel like dumb questions are ones that are never asked. So feel free to ask me any question that you have in regards to producing or the news in general, or CNN. Either way, I can. If not, we could. I can, I guess, talk a little bit more about the news and stuff like that. So, some advice that I can give is, if you are pursuing the news and the producer role, it's very, very imperative to stay in tune with what's going on, what's going around with you guys locally, what's going on nationally. As long as you have a clear indication of what the news of the day is, you will forever succeed. I also say, like, watch about 10, 15 minutes of the news locally, nationally, because that also just keeps you aware of what's going on in your neighborhood as well as what's going on with the world. Other pieces of advice that I would say, I think Cheyenne, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a good idea, the icebreaker, the headline story. That's a very good idea because that also practices with writing. The creating the compelling headline, that's also good practice, along with writing like 30-second scripts. If you see a news article on a local website that you think is like, this is interesting, my advice would be practice writing a script. When you're writing scripts, you always want to keep it active voice. So active voice meaning I am talking, I am walking, it's like something that you're happening right now versus I walked, I talked, I spoke. The reason why it's best to keep active voice because it keeps the story alive. If you're speaking in past tense, obviously that means the story happened past tense. But if you keep the active voice, so I'm walking to the store, I'm speaking to the cashier, it keeps the story active. It keeps the story alive. It doesn't seem like it happened 5 minutes ago, even though it's possible that it did. But the goal is to keep your viewers engaged. You also want to try to look at using captivating words. You want to keep it simple, but attention grabbers, like words that might draw a person's attention, because that also keeps the viewer interested. Along with that, I will also say, try to get involved. If there's any TV stations in your neighborhood, or if there's just any station at all, I would suggest to try to do like an internship. Oh, I see a hand. Yes. Joe Ardeen, and correct me if I'm wrong.
That's okay. That's okay. The name is Jody. It's okay. Hello. Hi. So I have a few questions. Let's go through them one by one. So, what is producing in regards to you, and what do you do in that producer role?
Okay. So it kind of went in and out, but you said what is the idea of producing in terms of my role? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Yes. What is the idea of producing in regards to you, and what you do in that role as a producer?
Okay, got it. That's a very great question. So, again, I'm an associate producer. So what that means is I'm more in charge of the video elements, the visuals, the pictures, the videos, the stuff that you would see next to an anchor. So an everyday, day-to-day schedule for me is we have our editorial phone call at 8:00, and that is with the writers, the executive producers, the senior producers, and we pretty much talk about the news of the day. And then depending on whatever the news of the day is, I will go and do research in our database to stack videos under certain segments that are in relation to the story. Do that for a few hours. In between that, I'm also getting edit requests from writers and seniors and executive producers, and from there, I complete those. So if they're like, "Hey, I need a spot cut or a sound on tape cut. I need this interview cut." That's pretty much what I would do in the midst of those 3 hours. So around like 12:40-ish, which is about like another 20 minutes, I'm going to head down to the control room and I'm going to set it up and set up my computer, put on my headset. And then we have a panel that we use to communicate with each other in the control room. So if I need to speak to the executive producer, I'm going to press this button. If I need to speak to another AP or an associate producer, I'm going to press this button. In the hours of 1 and 4, I'm thoroughly communicating with everyone in the control room to see what we need to call up next? What videos do we need to roll on next? Is there a live event that might be happening that we need to pay attention to? Little things like that. And so after that, we'll either have a post meeting, so a meeting after the show to talk about, hey, what went well? Hey, what went wrong? Hey, next time maybe we should use this video instead of that video. Suggestions, Q&A. That's the type of stuff that we would do. So that's kind of a day-to-day producing role that I do. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Thank you. My next question is, what are the skills one would need to be a producer?
I would start off by saying you need to be editorially aware. What does that mean? Editorially aware means that you are in knowledge of what's going on in your community or across the nation. So let's say if you wanted to apply for a position here at CNN, it would be very imperative for you to know what's going on nationally because it's a network. So that means it's not just one station in one area, it's the international platform. So I would say just the first thing you could start off by doing is just watching 10 to 15 minutes of news every day, specifically at the top of the hour. So if you had time at 1 o'clock, I would watch the first 5 to 10 minutes of that newscast. Why? Because they're going to always put the most compelling, captivating top news story always within the first 5 minutes of the show. Why? Why is that? Well, it's because you want to pull your audience's attention. So I would say that you need to be editorially aware by first watching local just to get your feet wet. Then once you feel acclimated and you're like, okay, I have a good idea of what's going on in my neighborhood. Let me see what's going on nationally. That's when I would say watch 10, 15 minutes of CNN if you wanted to apply at CNN or Fox, MSNBC, only because that helps you nationally on a national scale. It informs you what's going on, also internationally as well. And I'm not sure if CNN has a bureau in y'all's location. I have to look that up, but that's what I would say. You would need to be editorially aware of what's going on in the news of the day. For example, I know today that President Biden is planning to meet with the Japan Prime Minister. They're having a whole event all day. So it's little things like that. You want to be editorially aware. Another skill I would say also, again, try practicing writing scripts. If you see news articles in your community, see if you can write a 30-second script out of that using the active voice. So those are the two big things, being editorially aware and practice writing scripts, because you have to have both of those skills to do what I do.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is, what are jobs that you see that aren't talked about as much that we with a journalism degree might be interested in?
That's another. You got all the good questions. Let's see. Well, I'll say this. I know for sure we're always looking for writers for shows. So again, this goes back to the writing the 30-second script and the 30-second, active script with different articles. That is just to get you into the routine of knowing how to write a script. Once you learn how to do that, you can branch out and start writing tougher scripts. So top story, A block type scripts. So that would be something I would say. Again, that writing skill, that writing muscle that, so if you guys do any broadcast writing script at your school, I would definitely take that very, very seriously. So that way you have a clear idea of what it's like to write an everyday script. What else would I say? I think it's just going back to that whole editorial knowledge and knowing what's going on editorially in the story. Those are the two. It's always going to go back. I always like to say the editorial and the writing scripts are the foundation of news. Being editorially aware of what's going on in the nation, internationally, locally, you name it, and also having writing skills. Those are the foundation. I'm always refer to those two as the foundation of journalism.
Okay, Miss, thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, your chat. Did you have a question?
Good morning, Gabrielle. I'm Laurie. I actually teach in the journalism program here, and I have 2 questions. Thank you so much for highlighting those core skills. So it's great when I hear these things from other persons as well who are in the industry. My questions, I'd like you to Well, I don't know how much of this you do at CNN, but I'd like you to talk a little bit about multimedia journalists. I've heard persons shorten that to MMJ. Journalism is quite a demanding job already, but MMJs have to take their own videos sometimes, capture their own audio clips. From the vigorous head nodding, I know you know all about it. Help them to and help us to understand, well, what is this? And does it make it so much harder to do this job?
Great question. It's so nice to hear from you. So in my little autobiography, before I got to CNN, I was at WGXA. WGXA was considered a starter market. Starter markets are more of the markets where you come out of college, and like that's the best way to get your foot in the door. You can make your mistakes and keep your job. Like so I always will recommend that anybody that's going out of college to try to start in a local starter market. So multimedia journalists, those are exactly what you said. It's a reporter. You got to break down multimedia. So multi meaning multiple, and media meaning you are in front of the camera. You're also behind the camera. You're writing the scripts. You know what I'm saying? And so at my old station, our multimedia journalists in the MMJ, they basically were their own cameraman, interviewer, and stand-up person. At my old job, we had 8 hours to turn a story. So if you were a multimedia journalist, you were MMJ, you had from 8 a.m. to 4:30 because the show aired at 5. So, and in that time, in those 8 hours, that reporter is shooting B-roll. That reporter is talking to the interviewers, setting up the interviewers. That person is editing their own packages. So again, going back to that writing skill, it's a core thing. So they're writing their own scripts, they're editing their own packages, and they have to get it through that deadline. If they don't reach the deadline, it's not going to make the show, which is never a good thing. So yes, it can be very demanding because you're thinking, oh, I should have a camera person, or oh, I should have this, or oh, I should have that, and it's not usually the case. So beware to know that if you ever apply to something that's like an MMJ or multimedia journalist, you are going to be doing most of the groundwork.
Okay, thank you. And obviously you survived, so they will too. Sounds like a lot, but yeah. All right, so my next question is more on the culture of news, especially now, in the world that we live in now, where we have multiple wars going on at the same time. We have lots of people commenting on things, and we have to deal with the citizen journalism aspect and social media and so on. Do you think, Gabrielle, in your work, is it harder to verify the facts and to make sure that your reports are accurate? And by your, I don't mean personally, I just mean in the news field. Is it harder, and how do you deal with that?
That's a very good question. So yeah, you're right. We got the Ukraine war, we have the Gaza war, we have the situation going on in Haiti that we constantly cover. And in the midst of all those wars, you do have a lot of propaganda. You have a lot of conspiracy theories. You have social media, right? Social media is now the number one, in my opinion, it's the number one way to access news. It's quick, fast, easy versus someone like anyone our age or who want to sit down and be like, I'll return to the 6 o'clock news at 6 o'clock. It's not like that anymore in the world that we live in. So when you have social media being that platform, we do have to be careful with just grabbing stuff and assuming that it's facts, because it could be a regular person just sitting in front of the camera and saying, okay, this is what I think, and I believe it's true. So the best way that we use to fact check it, we actually have a whole department, and their whole job is just for fact checking. So when you have the bodies to do that, that's easier said than done. But that's how we cycle it here. But if I was back at my old station where we weren't as staffed, I would say that we would have to just go back to the source, or we would have to research like a guaranteed source is some like a government official, a law enforcement official, anybody like that. Those are usually like guaranteed factual people. And that's like what I think we would do at my old station. We would just go back to like a PIO, a private investigating officer, the council people, the government, like the city council, city government, and just fact check it that way versus taking a social media post that someone may have assumed like, oh yeah, this is true, this is factual. That's what we would do.
Okay, thanks. And just a follow-up question. Do you find that you have to hold back stories sometimes because you just aren't sure yet, or you can't trust the information you have yet? How do you handle that? Or do you put out a little bit just in the meantime until you get more? What do you do?
The second one. So I'll pitch the story, but also put the disclaimer after I do need to do some fact checking on this. But it's the headline. The headline caught my eye. So I want to do some more research on it, but I just want to flag this or notify the team of what I found.
Okay, thank you.
Did anybody else have a question?
Okay, I'm sorry. I still have yes, I still have one more question. Okay,
Sure.
So, I wrote it down. Hold on. What are the ways you find stories to write and produce? Because usually people are scared to talk or something of the sort. So, what are ways you find the story or convince people to talk or something of the sort?
So going back to that whole social media situation, right? So again, in the midst of social media where there are some propaganda, conspiracy theory type videos, there are also very intricate and interesting stories as well. Something that may have only just been caught on camera, right? If it's a crazy weather video that was only caught on cell phone footage, because again, you want to grab the viewer's attention. And what's the best way to grab viewers' attention? Captivating video, right? So I'll look on social media. We have at CNN, we have an affiliate called the ACC, and that's basically our affiliate centerized station. And what that alias does, it sends news alerts just constantly. There's literally a department for everything at CNN, but they send us news alerts and live events and hey, this is going on, and hey, this is going on in Kentucky, hey, this is going on in Arizona, hey, this is going on in Pennsylvania, et cetera, et cetera. So social media is usually the first, like TikTok, I mean, hey, it's a news outlet, I feel, because again, a lot of stuff that people post be stuff they catch on camera. And you can't really argue with cell phone footage, unless they altered it in some type of mystical way. So yes, social media, newspaper articles, watching other outlets, like I may see something on MSNBC that we may not have. I'm going to try to pitch that because it's interesting. Look at how I see. Yeah, that's it. Social media, newspaper articles, and watching other outlets of news, whether it's local or international.
Okay, thank you. Going back to, I think you said you did editing when you began. Yes. So going back to that, when going into media and going into, so what are the different apps or technological things you had to learn to be able to properly produce media? For example, like Adobe, I know many people use Adobe. So what are those apps?
So we definitely use Adobe. We definitely use Adobe Premiere for all editing requests, whether that's video, sound requests, things of that nature. We also use Getty Images to get some pictures. Again, we use TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, but we have to push it through social discoveries to make sure that it's okay for us to use it. Because again, we just can't grab anything off the internet and just put it on there and say, this is news. Like, we can't do that. What other editing? We use iNews. iNews is what we use to produce rundowns. And yeah, those are the two main things. So iNews is for the rundown. Adobe Premiere is for the editing process.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? Because I may have to. Oh, sorry.
Hi. Hi, Gabrielle. So for those who say things like you have to have links to get a job in media, how would you respond to that, being that you are a producer?
So when you said links as in like I need to know somebody, or like what do you mean? Like, help me understand.
Right. Do you have to know somebody who works there in order to get your resume being seen, etc., etc.?
I don't really believe in that. I really think your talent and your work ethic speak for itself. I didn't know nobody that worked at CNN, and here I am. You know what I'm saying? I think it really, you have to they do say it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that is true to an extent. However, I do think that a majority of it is based off your skill, so I would always say keep your skills first. And then, from there, then you start you start networking with people, and be like, oh, you work at CNN? Oh, I work at, Channel 2 or whatever. Let's connect. So I always say let your work speak for itself. But if you know somebody who knows somebody, that usually works too. But I'll just say I'm a living testimony. I didn't know anybody at CNN, and I was able to get a job here. So that's why I personally say it's your skills that gets you the job, not necessarily who you know all the time.
Okay, but like, how important would you say networking is? Sorry.
I would say they're neck and neck. I feel like the your work ethic and your skill set, and based off who you know and the networking part, yes, those are neck and neck. Absolutely. I hope I answered your question. They're about the same. I would say they're about the same. So if you're good at what you do and you're good at speaking to people that you may know or may not know, you're almost golden. But I wouldn't just base it off of who you know, because you can know everybody at the company but not do a great job as an associate producer. Is there any other questions that you guys might? Oh, I see Krishana. I hope I said your name properly. Did you have a question? I may have to leave soon because the show starts in 15 minutes. I'm gonna answer these last two questions and I'm gonna have to hop off and go make some TV. Krishana, I'll start with you. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. Good morning. Yeah, it's still morning where we are. I had a question. So the young lady who asked the question before me was basically asking if you have to know somebody in the industry in order to get somewhere. But I want to kind of take the question more a little bit home. So we are in Jamaica. Most persons view us as a small dot on the world in comparison to everybody else. So what about the persons from here who want to be able to branch off into international spaces, like say a CNN? How is it that we get to those places?
Okay. Yeah. So I see what you're saying. I'm gonna have to look up and see if there's a bureau, because we got bureaus everywhere. We're an international news network, so we have bureaus in Beijing, we got bureaus in Kenya, and I need to see. I got to research. I don't know this off the top of my head, but I got to research to see if we have a Jamaica bureau anywhere. I would say other than CNN, there's other international news outlets that are just as big as CNN. I don't know if you guys have heard of the BBC or what's the other one? Reuters. AFP. AFP is another internet. So if you can't get into CNN, I would suggest that you look up AFP and Reuters. Those are international, and I know I've seen videos coming from Jamaica from those two media companies. That's what I would say.
Okay, so I'm sorry, continuing my question. Thank you for your response, by the way.
Yes,
essentially the next question that I had was as it relates to producing. So I'm trying to understand, you said you're an associate producer. Would that technically be the same as a news producer in a sense, or are they different?
I would think, I'm going to say this. I would say an associate producer is more so like an editor. We don't really call the shot in terms of like, oh, I think we should lead with this story. I think we should lead with that story. We are more in line with an editor because we do video requests, stop requests, packages, those type of things.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning. You hearing me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So my question is more on like the theme or the topic for the journalism breakout. So just like the theme is the call to conquer and serve. So how do you to conquer and serve, and like give an example of like your personal experience if you have?
Okay, I'm sorry. So the audio had cut off in the middle of the question. Do you mind repeating the question one more time?
Yeah, no problem. So as I was saying, I was asking more about like the topic because it's the call to conquer and serve. So like, how do you utilize your journalism skills or your producer skills to conquer and serve? Like, and examples of like your conquering and serving in your career, if you have.
Okay. So I'm very big on race relation stories. Anything that's highlighting or shining a light on Black and brown people, that's kind of that's like my passion of news. I feel like sometimes we don't have much of an outlet to broadcast like what we got going on. So I think it's just very imperative that we do that. Just ways that we conquer. It's just, having that voice, not being afraid to speak up, not being afraid to just say like, hey, I have a say here. I belong here. I was hired here for a reason. And this is what I'm passionate about. And, not being afraid to even receive rejection. Because sometimes you may like do all that and then they're like, yeah, but still no. But at the end of the day, what I hope that you learn from that is that you are finding your voice and that you are speaking up for something that you believe is right in terms of conquering, stuff that you believe in. That's what I would say. Just having that confidence and knowing like, hey, this is what I'm very passionate about in surrounding this topic. And here are the elements to provide it. I always would say like, just keep your passion where it is. Like, so if you're passionate about animals, if you're passionate about climate change, if you're passionate about things like that, I would say those are the things that you need to focus in on and the stories that you need to pitch about and provide like the evidence, provide the research. Hey, this is what I researched and this is what I found on this climate change story. But having that confidence to know that you are correct in what you're speaking on. Does that make sense? I hope I answered that correctly.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I know you said like to do
It cut out
the research and make sure that racial issue. Like how do you? I know you said like to do your research and everything, but like as say a black person writing on like racial issues and stuff like that. How do you make sure that you're like you don't come off as biased? Like we're not really here to say
yeah, that
advocate.
Mm-hmm.
So like how do you be partial about it?
I would say you got to take the feelings out of it. Take the emotions out, take the anger, take the hatred, take whatever emotion that you're feeling while covering that story and just present the facts because the facts don't lie. The facts are what they are. So, you saw this happen or you have evidence to provide that. That's what I would say. You have to take the emotions out of it and just provide the facts. It might be biased because of what it's representing, but as long as you provide the facts and take the feelings out of it, that's what I would say would be more beneficial to get your point across for something that you might be passionate about. So guys, I hate to cut this short, but I have no problem. I do have to go because our show is in literally 5 minutes and I gotta go to the control room. But I did in the chat, I dropped my email address. That is my personal email address. If any of you guys have any other questions, please feel free to email me. We can connect on LinkedIn. Just anything that you may need, because I don't know if I got to answer everybody's questions. I hate that I got to cut it short. When they said 11:30, I was thinking Eastern time. So it's like, it's almost 1 o'clock over here. So I got my time. Yeah. But yeah, so that's my email address that I put in the chat. Feel free to email me. WhatsApp me. Actually, let me drop my WhatsApp. Hold on. Let me drop that real quick. I think my WhatsApp is my phone number. Okay. So I'm gonna leave my WhatsApp number as well. So if you guys like can think of any other questions that you can think of, feel free to email me or text me. But I really do appreciate speaking with you guys. I really wish I could speak longer. If we didn't have a show in 5 minutes, I would have definitely did that. But I appreciate you guys for listening and asking your questions. And again, if you have any other questions, please feel free to email me or WhatsApp me, okay? I'm gonna leave now. And again, email me, WhatsApp me, and everything.
Okay, will do. And I will be copying and pasting it for those who will be rejoining. I want to say thank you, Gabrielle, for coming out and for staying so close to your showtime. We understand and we have a love. And of course, we will be emailing or WhatsApping you. So good luck with your show. And thank you again for coming.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, so while Gabrielle is transitioning, for those who rejoined or missed the first part of the session, Gabrielle Nelloms is a seasoned media professional with a wealth of experience in broadcast journalism. She's currently serving as an associate producer at CNN since August 2022, where she brings a dynamic skill set to her role. She edits sound bites, video elements, and assists writers and line producers in delivering high quality content. Gabrielle's dedication to her craft is further evidenced by her freelance work as an anchor producer in October 2023, based in Atlanta, Georgia. She has provided you with valuable insights and tools that you can apply in your own journalistic pursuits. As such, her commitment to journalistic excellence and diverse skill sets has made her a valuable asset in the field of media and broadcasting. Now, I did put in the chat that we would be doing our icebreaker session before we'll be doing it before we rejoin on YouTube. Did anybody get a chance to come up with a headline or find any of the terms or concepts? You can put it in the chat if you don't want to open your mic. Okay, so what we'll do is to, seeing that nobody did it, what we'll do is to just rejoin on, okay, all right. Okay, I'm seeing one from Britannia for the celebrity scandal, and it says Jamaican TikTok sensation Derek Morgan sues dancehall artist Jada Kingdom for use of his original work of authorship. Well done, Britannia. Well done. That's a very compelling headline with, of course, people who we know of. So it's definitely newsworthy and recent. Timeless is a factor that we have to consider in journalism. Okay, any competition for Britannia, or Britannia is our winner for today? Guys, we have like 2 minutes. If you're working on it, let me know so that I'll give you a minute more.
I'm working on mine. Give me just a second.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I'm seeing where Scott says, oh my God, I exit off. Okay, she says, Global Leaders Unite. Annual Climate Change Summit promises a sustainable future. Okay. Look at you guys writing compelling headlines. Okay, awesome. All right, so in the interim, while I'm waiting for that person who said they put theirs in a minute, I'll just send you some sample headlines that I have here. Then let me paste it in the chat. And this is in the order of the news topics. So you can see what you could have written, or if you wanted to do it but you had no idea of how to, that's one way you could do it. I'm so sorry, but time is up. And as media practitioners, we have to practice timeliness. Okay, I see Krishna sending in hers on the brink of our departure. And she says, election madness, both parties claiming victory at the polls. Okay, well done, Krishna, well done. So I will be taking a screenshot of these so that I can debate and see who wins. I'm guessing that everyone is in the WhatsApp group, so I'll make the announcement there. Okay, so we will have to rejoin the session now. So let's head on over there. Okay. All right, guys. This is the end of our breakout session. Let's head back to Symposium on YouTube.